Kevin.
Alex leading us off tonight. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate that. Now we want to bring in the Foundation for Defense of Democracy's president, Cliff May, who is always an expert on all things, not just domestic, but international. Great to have you back with us. This looks like, to me, a chance to have a conversation, but it doesn't, Cliff, look like to me this is going to amount to very much. What do you think?
Well, here's what it could amount to, Kevin, and what I would be advising Trump, and maybe I am because I'm sure he watches your show if he watches anything. He shouldn't be looking for a full deal here. He should be looking for what he has demanded, what Zelensky has agreed to, which is what? A ceasefire. Stop the killing. After you have a ceasefire, then you can negotiate. It's going to be very complicated. But if you start out by saying, "Oh, let's figure out the whole deal, territorial concessions," and Putin says, "Yeah, once we get through all this, then I'll stop killing innocent civilians," that's never going to work. So start with what Trump has demanded, cessation of hostilities, and then work on the rest. It won't be easy, as you say. Because what does Putin want? Putin wants Ukraine to be a colony of Russia as it used to be.
Right.
And just by the way, this is interesting. Where are they meeting? In Alaska. What was Alaska back in 1867?
It was Russia.
A colony of Russia.
Right.
We bought it for, I think, $7.5 million. Doesn't sound like a lot of money, but if Trump had invested it correctly, I think by now it would be worth $5 million.
Boy, that's actually very well said. You know, I have to say, though, I think the president, Cliff, has a trump card here, if you'll allow me.
I'll allow you.
He's going to use economic pressure, whether that's through India, whether that's on China, again, in this roundabout way to get to Putin and Russia. Do you think that's effective?
Precisely right. What Putin is thinking now, what he's recalculating is what kind of pressure is Trump going to put on me in terms of sanctions and secondary sanctions, not allowing me to sell my oil to India, maybe to China? Is he going to shrink my economy and I won't have a war economy? And by the way, Trump mentioned this in the clip we just saw, munitions are being sent now to Zelensky, to Ukraine, being paid for by our NATO allies, not by us. We make them, we sell them, they get to use them. That makes Zelensky and the Ukrainians stronger. So it could be that Putin thinks, okay, I could use a pause. I could use this. I want to hold where I am now. I've got about 20% of Ukrainian territory. I've got a land bridge to Crimea, which I took from them in 2014. Maybe this is a good time to stop. Now, does that mean peace? It doesn't mean peace. Putin will prepare for the next conflict. Maybe he thinks I can do this better after Trump is out of office. But he's getting on in age. He's not as old as Trump. He's about 70. He might want to, but that's okay, too, because then Ukraine arms up, becomes what we call a porcupine, very difficult for a predator to digest. And you see what happens. And by the way, after Putin, there won't be a very smooth succession. Other things. I want to remind you of something. Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania.
Right.
They were part of the Soviet Union.
That's right.
From 1945 to the collapse of the Soviet Union, the U.S. never recognized them as part of the Soviet Union. We always recognized them as independent countries, which they are again. And they're independent countries, very afraid that if Putin succeeds in Ukraine, he'll turn on them.
And I think that's why the world has to act in this circumstance. Let's figure out a way to stop the fighting. We can figure out the land, divvying it up, or leaving it as is. Frankly, if you're Ukrainian, that's obviously the way you'd like to.
Well, you can freeze the conflict for a while.
Absolutely.
The conflict in South Korea has been frozen since 1953.
Oh, well said. Cliff May, great to see you, my friend. Appreciate your
Always a
time
pleasure.
tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Meantime, back here at home, Texas Democrat lawmakers on the lam